the story is almost everything. I think as humans, we connect to a story, and you can hear sometimes when someone buys something of your work, and then you hear them talking to someone else about it. It's like, oh, that's what you got of that. Cool.
I'm Robin Johnson. This is Yours for the Making, and I'm joined by Marina Dragomirova and Iain Howlett from Studio Furthermore.
It's very niche. It's not for everyone. It's not supposed to be for everyone. But I think to be able to experience something that you haven't experienced before is kind of a nice thing. We're not very interested in kind of the past. As designers, we really want to create something unseen or something new.
This show tells the story of the makers, the people that create things, whether it's in wood or metal, whether they're artists or musicians or chefs. It doesn't matter. I'm going to tell their story.
It's very important that the final look is a result of certain things that happen to it. It's not just an aesthetic, which we try to translate to the work.
I'm Robin Johnson. This is Yours for the Making, and I'm joined by Marina Dragomirova and Iain Howlett from Studio Furthermore. Thanks for coming over, guys. So your work, I first saw your work at Pad London last year, 2025.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, it was like nothing else there. It was completely unique. I was transfixed immediately by the work itself, but then when I started talking to you about what it actually was that you were making out of, it was pretty fantastic. I mean, you'll tell the story better than me.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah. That's the work we were showing. It's the Moonrock project, and it's I think that's our main work. We have a number of projects, but that's the biggest one. It's aluminium foam, and it's a process that we've developed over some years, and it's made from car wheels. So it's recycled material, and it looks like lava stone.
Yeah, it has.
In some ways.
You can see through depending on how thick it is. It's maybe around 6 years of research and to get to that point. But you saw the lights in Pad, I think, because we after that launched a very large cabinet in Miami, which I think is probably the most phenomenal piece we've done.
Yeah, the cabinet.
Yeah, that's kind of it's the work that we were producing in time for Miami, which just passed in December. It's a project where it's the item that we've made that's kind of taking our process to much, much further, I think, than we've taken it before. But yeah, it's something that we developed over some years with a lot of experimenting, and it's how we like to develop our projects. So we like to kind of create our own materials and processes, and then pull a narrative out of it, and develop furniture, lighting. How to kind of explain it?
The inspiration normally comes from something outside this earth. We are trying to really break every normal thinking. So even the cabinet doesn't almost have any square. Kind of everything is very organic. We normally look into things like Mars or the moon. I think you quite explained that more logically than.
It's grown out of an earlier project, but we're very interested by science, as in a curious way, not in a particularly technical way, and a little bit science fiction as well. But futurism is something very interesting to us. So we're not very interested in kind of the past. As designers, we really want to create something unseen or something new, and we're very curious about nature and geology and rock formations, and where materials actually come from in the universe. So how the raw materials are created. It's something very interesting to us. So our work kind of touches on things like meteorites, volcanoes, and volcanoes take place all over the universe, not just on Earth. It's how sort of planets and materials are formed. So we look into quite diverse areas for our inspiration, and that's sort of how we develop our ideas. And
wow, it certainly looks like that. I mean, the videos and the photos that I've seen of the cabinet, it's different from photos of other works that I've seen of yours, where your stool that's not really a stool, it's almost like a centerpiece of it's like a small table, but it looks very solid and very kind of big and bulky, although the top's quite delicate and quite thin. It's that play between proportions of a big solid base and quite a thin top. But the cabinet itself, I've seen it with the doors closed, it looks like a huge kind of, almost like a living organism, very metallic, but like you say, almost like a lava stone. But then when you see the doors open, it all of a sudden takes on a life of its own as something very thin and very delicate. I mean, I've only seen it in pictures, but it looks like I don't want to call it a carcass, because it's not like a carcass like I would call a carcass. It's, the body of it looks very thin, really thin, and
6 millimeters.
Only 6 millimeters as well. Yeah. But it doesn't look that thin when it's closed. It looks like it's a really solid. It looks like it could be a meteorite that's been shaped through, traveling through the the universe for millions of years.
It was kind of on that point while we were in the fair. You can see that if the doors are not open, people would not even think it's something you can open. And so we decided, okay, we need to keep them open so they kind of venturing to work with it. And it's so strange how they just straight face and it opens, like the most shocking thing they can experience. But yeah, going back on that, it's been a very long process.
In the beginning, the earlier work is quite thick, and it's sort of crude in certain ways, and it's very carved. And as we sort of worked more with the process and we did more pieces, we learned over time how to get a really good handle on the process, and we were able to, now we know really to a good degree how thin we can go. And with the cabinet, we really tried to go kind of as far as we could with it, to take it to the very edge, so that's really part of it. And because a lot of the other pieces are kind of monolithic tables and things like that, because the cabinet, you open it up, you experience it in another way, you really feel the whole object, the inside and the outside. So we wanted to really kind of push it as far as we could. I think we pretty much
it was kind of when Iain more kind of conceived that idea, and I was like, I'm not sure that can work, but it did. Was 6 months of
there was were there a lot of accidents along the way? I mean, I can't imagine that is the sort of thing that you can draw and then you just make it. That seems to me like the sort of thing that you try and then something goes wrong and then you try again and then you try a different process.
Honestly, we're not really in a position to have too many accidents. Things happen, but you don't want to get it something that size wrong too many times. I think we've just built up to it piece by piece. So the pieces have got bigger and the process has become more refined. And I think we develop over the work. But in terms of, this is kind of the first go at this piece. It's there's no kind of broken test.
Well, I mean, that's fantastic to be able to do something of that scale, of that delicate thickness as well, and come out with something as fantastic as that on the first try. I mean, you're saying the development, of course, but if we were going to make something like that, I'd probably, I mean, not that I'd make something exactly like that because it's just beyond my level of skill and knowledge, but if I was to make something on that sort of scale in the material that I work in, I'd probably be factoring in having to do it 2 or 3 times, I'd imagine, at least, because first time you're going to have loads of problems, but if you're hitting it first time, that shows that you know exactly what you're doing with the material that you're working with to achieve the desired outcome.
So I think we were very lucky as well working with the casting Foundry in Bulgaria, that it really we've been working for that long, so they know exactly. Every time we challenge a little bit more, so they're like, okay, if you do that, you need to be concerned about this and this. So we work both sides, from creative and then from their knowledge, to kind of achieve that. I think for the cabinet, we were lucky. We had a commission for a front desk just before that, and it gave us, because the front desk started having this language of the organic shape, but we're still not having doors, and kind of the construction was more
it was
easy
static.
to handle.
There were no moving parts, but it was a large sculptural piece that had a lot of the qualities of the cabinet, but not the complication of something moving.
It also didn't have the exact footprint that, it could have been a bit this way, a bit that way. So in that way, whatever came out was a good test to prove that
it's
the next
thicker as well. So as I was saying, it's kind of step by step in that sense. I think we were reasonably confident to do it, and also we're quite enthusiastic, so we do get a bit carried away by our project because it's our self-initiated project. I think maybe we also get kind of carried away. So just trying to balance how far to push it and what makes sense as a professional practice as well. So but I think overall it's worked out. It's worked out quite okay.
But it was one of the standout pieces at the Miami show. I mean, I read that on many websites. It was in, certainly in the top 5 of all the pieces that were there by nearly everyone's account.
I hope so.
And to a show of that caliber as well, to be you definitely one of the main pieces there. That's pretty good going.
We try. We quite often we can't go to always travel to fairs, but in this case we were able to go to Miami, and we were really pleased that we managed to go and kind of gauge the response. But we were very, very happy overall. It was a lot of work went into it, and it was worthwhile. So
we started probably around this time last year, so it took nearly from kind of the idea to execution to the photography to getting to Miami. It took nearly 12 months.
Wow.
Yeah. It's not the only thing we're doing. We kind of have a few things going at once, but lead times are fairly long. I think that's part of making sure that it kind of comes out as it should as well. Just doing it step by step and making sure we have enough time to not kind of be really rushing on something, and we can really kind of go back and forth. We work very closely with our Foundry, and it's really a team kind of effort in a way. We've been working with them for maybe 5, 6 years, maybe even a bit more. And it's really about the relationship, I think. So we kind of understand each other very well. And
I think if 6 years ago we just went with the drawing of the cabinets, like, can you do that? We'll be like, get out.
But we're there sort of for every step of the process, and we prepare kind of everything up to the point of the casting, and then we kind of once the pieces are cast, then we're there for the assembly and for any changes or adjustments that need to be made. So it's really step by step, and
No, sounds great, and it's fantastic to have a relationship like that with the same people that you started the journey with into this kind of new material sort of thing. It's great to have people on board that have been there from the beginning, and you're learning together, and understanding what the boundaries and limitations might be, and you're pushing them a little bit more, and they're probably enjoying it as well, maybe.
Everyone, when you need to sit and weld for like 8 hours, I don't think that we're their favorite customers. But definitely. But it's a long conversation that happens in bits. What our aesthetic is, what is acceptable in our eyes, and what is not. Because they're art foundries, so they have obviously vision of what's well done. But sometimes we need to break. It's like, no, we actually want it rough or unfinished or treated more like that. So it's that's also takes time. It's not only the work, but it's kind of adjusting of what's the aesthetic we're going for.
And now you've done something of that scale to that level of delicacy. What's the next thing? It's got to be bigger and thinner, right?
It's probably.
Yeah, I think in a way, once you have a kind of a good sense of the material, I think you want to get it's the same really with any material. You kind of want to get the right thickness for the application.
Of course.
It's not that we're trying to sort of challenge it beyond. I think we just want to know how far we can go and have a good sense of how to work with our process, our material. But yeah, big is always good as well. It's not the whole story, but it's the whole story. I think another consequence of working we've worked with a few foundries, but we actually developed the process in London with a London-based foundry who they produce technical components. They're not an art foundry. They produce all sorts of things from aircraft components to lawnmower bits and pieces. And the director there, his sister is an artist, so he has a soft spot for artists. And they have this theory that on Friday afternoon, the kind of focus goes a little bit. So he was letting artists come in and try casting basically at very, very reasonable rates. And we actually developed the process with him. And we sort of took it as far as we could there. And then we started to work with other foundries, but the foundry that we work with in Bulgaria, they're an art foundry and they only produce artworks, but they do everything, a lot of contemporary work, but they also do public sculpture and they can make sort of 5-meter public statues and things like that. And, or they take old statues and clean them and fix them, and so they when we work with them, we see the scale of work that's possible, and it's sort of
it's never big enough.
Yeah, I mean they can really produce to any size, and it makes you sort of start to wonder or think about scale in a different way. So, yeah.
I think that's the thing. If you haven't seen it, how can you kind of picture it? But if you go into a place you can see huge things being made, suddenly you think, well, maybe that is possible.
Yeah, you see how it all comes together and how it's a process, and it's kind of a game of logistics as much as anything, I think. And just seeing it from that side, it doesn't seem daunting. It seems more like something that would be a very interesting process or a journey to go on, I think, of doing larger scale. The work that we do is generally indoors, but the material and process can be outdoors as well. So it always gives you these sort of thoughts of any scale would work.
Will be welcome.
Could that be next then? Something like a big public artwork somewhere?
At the moment, we're working on furniture, but it's definitely something we would like to have a go at. So,
is that interesting? Is that quite a common aspiration within artists and a kind of art furniture? You almost, is the peak kind of a big public artwork somewhere, or?
I don't think so. I'm not really sure.
Not so often that they cross path, but I don't think we have the most standard route of kind of growing. I mean, it would be great. And I think the material has this interesting fact that it also can become part of nature because of its organic shape, and little pockets of life can start growing. So it can have a very different look in the end after 50 years or something. But I don't think we consider that much. We thought that much about it. It's just, I think when you see the little cabinet in this massive room, you're like, okay, we can do bigger. But in the case, for example, the color of the cabinet, this is something very hard to communicate on digital media if you don't see it. Part of the idea of everything being outside this world was also color, is the finish to be something that you haven't experienced or not often. So it changes color. So it's kind of, I think the pieces you saw in part, they were bronze and they didn't have that. But in the aluminium normally shifts. In the case of the cabinet, is between green and brown. So when you walk around, it changes color when you open the door also. And this is very static on a picture. I think that's why three-dimensional sculptures are very important to show that part of the features of it.
I think I saw a video of someone walk around and it's almost like iridescent.
Yeah, it is. It's a
as
chameleon.
You go past, it's like a metallic green within the kind of, well, I don't want to call them holes, but kind of the crevices and the bubbles that are formed, the open bubbles that you go through, and it kind of like shone. Yeah, as a green that went past it.
It's super hard to explain to clients. They're like, I want the brown ones. Well, you get the brown and the green in one.
You can have it brown, but you just got to stand here
from your sofa.
I mean, it's breathtaking piece of work. Where did you draw inspiration from that? I mean, meteorites and lava and stuff like that, but for the shape and for the form, and
maybe we can kind of start from the beginning of how we end up being here. It's a very long story.
We look a lot at rocks and geology as an inspiration, and some of our earlier work, we were looking also at certain meteorite formations, and how we have a ceramic project called tektite, and we were looking at it's a type of meteor called a tektite, and it basically if a certain type of meteor arrives on Earth at a certain angle, and it hits the right type of clay, it sends this clay flying up into the air, and it spins, and it becomes hot, and it basically melts into a kind of glass.
Wow!
But it spins in a way that it sort of turns into a donut. So you can find these things that it's like a black foam,
very glossy
glass donut shape, and it's just this particular type of meteorite hitting the right type of soil at the right angle. You get these things, and they're quite, people collect them. They're quite, well, they're rare, but they're not so rare. It happens quite often, and it's just this idea of a kind of a geological process.
But it's for us, it's very important that the final look is a result of certain things that happen to it. It's not just an aesthetic, which we try to translate to the work. It's, yes, there is by now a bit of a art approach to the shape, but in the beginning really started with following through a recipe. Maybe we can start from there, and you can kind of explain.
It's sort of how our practice, how we got going. We actually started with glass, and we started making lighting is where we sort of, I think, our first serious
as a
studio project.
Together.
And we started working with a gallery in Milan, and we were producing glass in Czech Republic, working with some glass blowers there. And part of the project went very well, but part of the thing with glass is it's not a material that we can get hands on ourselves. We were originally making our own glass constructions from pieces we were buying in charity shops. and just cutting them in the studio on a tile cutter and assembling lights. And then we progressed to working with glass blowers. But it's something we weren't able to really get so hands-on. So the project went well, and we sort of established the studio, but we wanted to be more hands-on, and that's when we sort of had the idea to work with ceramic.
Yeah, it was something we can handle in the studio and kind of experiment, and we just bought a kiln on eBay, and it was like, okay, we don't want to do anything that everyone else is doing, so we started researching. We came across this paperwork from NASA when they were doing.
Yeah, we were looking at a lot of science at the time, and we found a science paper describing a ceramic foam that NASA produce for heat shields and things like that. And we were really clear. A lot of people that work in ceramics, and maybe they specialize on the wheel or on. There's a few very, very well defined processes, and the people that do it dedicate their lives to it, really. And being designers, I think we wanted to play around and see what we could do, but we were really sure that we're not going to develop a skill that people already practice to very, very high level.
It needed to be a process.
It needed to be a process, and it needed to be design thinking is what we wanted to bring to ceramics, really. So we had this science paper, and we kind of thought, what if we just treat it like a food recipe? Like if we order all these things and then we just follow it through. We got a kiln off of eBay, this kind of banged up old kiln, and thought like, yeah, well, it should just be like a food recipe, right? And we started ordering lists of chemicals. You could find anything really online, and we didn't know half of the things we were ordering what they were. Some of them were like literally chemistry descriptions with and then can't find exactly the same thing, and something that sounds similar with a few letters different, like maybe it's that.
What, as in like periodic table letters different?
Yeah. Like that's we can get this kilo of that, but maybe that's the same thing. And so it was really naive. It was quite a while ago now. It was kind of in our early formation days, but it was kind of this journey we went on. A friend of ours was doing an exhibition for London Design Festival, and they invited us to show with them. They were like, yeah, should we take the space together? I've got my work. You're working on something. You show what you're doing. I'm like, yeah, great. We've got 3 months. It should be fine. It should be. So we were. I think
we managed to prove something at that scale. Like we want to do at least something people can buy, not just a sample. So it was very intense 3 months.
Yeah. So what did you do? You didn't turn up with the.
No, we managed to.
We had some things, but
pull some pots.
Yeah, we'd only been we graduated, and it was kind of a bit between graduating and really formalizing our practice. So we were still really
seeing where we'll go.
Kind of from university, where you have access to loads of machinery and knowledge and other people that know specific things about things, that we had this sense of adventure, I guess, that we wanted, that we were still kind of, yeah, it should be fine, it should work. And but yeah, so we followed this process through 3 months. It was all right. We started making from the initial process. We have some of the original samples, this really weird foamy glassy ceramic material,
very brittle and breakable.
Yeah. We've got some blocks of ceramic like this, which literally you can see through it, and it weighs nothing. Like it's like less than a gram for a kind of a block. Some really weird materials. And from there we said, okay, we need to figure out how to convert this into something more like a craft process that we can actually make useful things out of. We're starting to make interesting things that are interesting to look at, samples and stuff, but actually something that that's an actual design, a product, an object that makes sense. And we managed to make some pieces for the show, and maybe not as many as we'd hoped. And we decided to show everything we did. So we showed samples. We had quite a lot of broken things that hadn't worked. And at the time it was a big, what should we do? Should we show, do people want to see broken bits of ceramic? But because the process was what was interesting to us, and because we were showing to a design audience, I think we decided it was right to show kind of all of it rather than just the finished, polished object. And actually the response was very good. People were very curious.
I think the result was quite curious, and it kind of ventured a lot of questions, and people, I think, almost moved the conversation away from can I buy that to what is it, what I can do with it, what are you going to do next, to kind of open very big conversation. I think that was I think at that point it was good, but with time we realized that's not very practical, because it really focuses people, what is that, how did you do it, and then they go home and start thinking about it, but they don't necessarily buy it. And so we started combining it with kind of slip cast, which they can use and put it in dishwasher, have a little bit of this foamy material, and try to make more kind of controllable outcome.
Yeah, combining ceramic foam with slip casting was a way to make products, but it's also a way to make things that are kind of a stepping stone for communicating. So you have something very unfamiliar and you need to put something familiar with it, so somebody can sort of start to make sense of what it is, how it can be used. But overall, I think, we had a lot of interest, and at that time, print media was more
still existing.
Yeah, still existing, and it was quite well covered, and from there, it opened some doors for us, but it also started to quite strongly formulate our way of working. Particularly, I think in design, it's not unusual to have you design something that when it's realized, the realization should be exactly the same as the drawings or the plan, and measurable, kind of millimeter measurable. And with ceramics, that's not how it works. The outcome can be, it depends, but in manufacturing it's different. But for studio ceramics, it's much more about the process and the journey, and it's a back and forth between you and the material. And I think that really influenced how we started to approach everything that we do.
Yeah, I think we learned a lot from the ceramic. I think from RCA, we had this feeling as, okay, we need to finish this table. It takes 10 hours. We sand and da-da-da. With the ceramic, it was like, we have no idea what will happen, if at all would be what we expected. So we kind of a patience, and also seeing the potential of things that are mistakes or the wrong turn, and kind of go back. It's like, oh, actually, that was very beautiful. We mixed the wrong thing, but it exploded and it looks cool. So it kind of taught us a lot of things about the material, and the patience, and the kind of not expecting that you can have a full catalog of pieces and go to an exhibition and be done. It could be samples as well as but that kind of started, we were still more interested in furniture, so the ceramic was not possible to scale to furniture that easily. And we start thinking, what we done with the ceramic, can we do it with another material? And we moved to aluminium, and we were quite lucky that the Foundry in Bulgaria were kind of naturally recycling without shouting about it. It's like, actually, that makes perfect sense to recycle something, car wheels, and the whole thing kind of got together as it started making really sense.
Yeah, we developed the metal out of a ceramic process, so it's not the same process, but visually they look very similar.
And in the beginning, it was quite the same. When we were doing it in UK, that was the same principle.
Mm-hmm. It's what strikes me. I know a lot of designers, and I don't know another designer that started a path of design by almost designing a completely new material. Mostly, the path would be: here's the design, I'm going to then do it in this material, or I want to work with wood or ceramics, and then I'm going to work around that. And I think this is the first time that I've spoken to anybody that said we like the idea of this kind of material at NASA, so we made this material and then tried to explore what we could do with it. That just fascinates me. That must have been equally terrifying as it was exciting.
Yeah.
Because what happens if you can't do it? What happens if you can't do any of the things that you want to do with it? All of that time and effort.
I think was the time when we studied in RCA, was that particular time where they moved from furniture into material exploration, and basically a lot of our colleagues were doing something crazy. Okay. So we were surrounded by people that would mix wood dust with resin, or start dealing with solar panels, and it just had this nice
I think it was a really good moment in terms of that time to study. I think the people, the tutors, the way the course was running, it was a really good moment, and we were quite lucky just that's the moment that we were studying.
So tell me about RCA. It was a master's in furniture design products.
Yeah.
And is that a year or 2 year course?
It was 2 years at that time.
It's 1 year now. It was 2 years then.
Was it 2 year full time?
Yeah.
But now it's only 1 year full time.
Yeah.
Yeah. To what we kind of not keeping in touch with what's happening, but it was you were with Ron Arad?
Yeah, Ron Arad was the course director. He had his final year. That was my year one, and then they switched over to Todd Bunty. So we had, or I had kind of two very, very amazing designers as course directors, and then the tutors around. It was a really kind of a golden time in a way, and to see the different perspectives and different ways of working.
But it was Ron who kind of changed the furniture. Before it was like a furniture course and everyone was doing that, and then he moved it to this kind of more between fields and divided in platforms. So you decide which platform you want to be. There were quite, for example, tech orientated. There was more wood orientated, and inside this platform you grow with your colleagues, and that's what we experienced when we were there. And it wasn't really even that good idea to move between platforms between the 2 years, and because they just drive you through. Basically, they break you like, what I'm going to do with my life from now on, and then they pack you in a new shape and send you out. I think Ron said it in the open day, like, we take perfectly horrible people and we make them unemployed.
But it was. I think we both came out with a lot of energy, and we our graduation projects, which I'm not going to go into, things started to move with the projects. We both had opportunities to exhibit them in London, and also I think in Milan, and we were getting sort of good media interest already. So straight from coming out, we didn't either of us know exactly how to formulate a career, but we both knew that we wanted to pursue our projects, and we both had the sense of kind of it's all possible. Maybe quite naive looking back, but so from there we both had the feeling that that's where we wanted to go. So when it came, now looking back at the ceramics, it does seem kind of a wild approach, but at the time it just seemed that's what we should be doing. We should be trying to bring something of our thinking and experimentation to a field that was really very, generally speaking, quite traditional. There are just a handful of very well developed processes that have existed, some of them for thousands of years. So it's something very specific about ceramic, but it's also very accessible. So very many people practice. And yeah, it was just what happens if we bring design thinking and experimentation to a field that's really got its archetypes already. And yeah, and it worked out, so happily.
And then how do you go from coming up with this new material and all these fantastic designs with it to that then being commercially viable as a studio? What's your model? Are you selling to people, or is it strictly through a gallery? Do you have an agent? How does it all work behind the scenes?
So yeah, each project is a bit different. And in the earlier days, it was quite different. Our lighting was picked up quite early by Nilüfer Gallery. Whereas the ceramics, we tried a few different things. So we had a studio production. We were doing one-off pieces, which we were showing, and some of those were also picked up by museum collections. So we, from very early on, we had worked with a few, I think three museums. And then we also worked with a studio ceramicist to do a small run production.
Which I repeat, and the colors are the same, and you can expect the same.
Yeah, and it was nice to work with someone who really knew what they were doing
and didn't change their mind every 5 minutes.
And yeah, I think we enjoy this process because it's some things we got very intuitively, and we quite good in certain things, and other there's whole big gaps in our ceramic knowledge, which that should be there if you train or learn that. The first thing you learn is you don't want to have any bubbles in the clay, because it will explode in the kiln. Our ceramic foam is entirely bubbles, so it's kind of counterintuitive, but it works.
I think from when we started experimenting, we realized that the outcome normally would end up in a gallery, because the time it takes to develop and then the final it takes so long that the price is quite high. And yes, with the ceramic, we managed to kind of go and work with someone that can make it into a piece they can buy. But generally, we realized that often that will be the outcome, working with galleries. And yeah, when something takes 6 or 12 months to make, it obviously reflects in the price, and there isn't so many. You wouldn't do like 15 of them, or actually maybe you would do 15, but you wouldn't do 50. And in that case, you kind of you have a very different strategy of how that thing is shown to the public. Also, the public, I don't think everyone is interested of understanding it. So you need particularly people that would take time to understand what we have done, and if they value it, and if they want to live with it. It's not in the ceramic. It's more, I think it's more easy, but with the metal, I think it's very specific.
So you're working with Charles Bernard Gallery with some of those things, and have you been with them for a long time, or how did that kind of happen?
We were just going through that memory lane yesterday with Simon.
Yeah, we developed, so out of the ceramics. That one more thing on that. We also had a production with a brand at one point for a couple of years. So we really explored a lot of different avenues, like studio production, one-off pieces, and mass production. And it gave us a sense of what each looks like, in a way, what it looks like to sell a piece now and again at a high price, to have a manufacturer producing and receive a royalty. So we had a taste of of those. And as we developed the metal process, part of the idea is that we wanted something bigger, that we could do bigger pieces out of, and structurally sound pieces. I think people do make ceramic tables and chairs, but it's a very particular. You need to be geared up with a large ceramic practice to do that with big machinery and kilns and stuff. So we really wanted to get back from accessory sized or smaller things to doing furniture. And as we were developing the metal process, I think it became quite clear to us that the price point was going to be relatively high, and for that to really work as a business, we need that the gallery is really better, a better direction than to try and make production pieces. And then with Charles Bernand,
we know Simon for maybe 10 years.
Yeah, we've known Simon a long
We
time.
kind of, each one of us is moving in kind of a direction. So eventually we met in where it was right for him and right for us. And I think it's the galleries. He always had a shop, and then his own production, and then he opened the gallery. I think it's 3 or 4 years old. So
really?
yeah,
Only 3 or 4 years old. Wow.
The shop. There was a shop earlier, and I think it's a few more years.
Maybe.
Yeah, but as sort of it's now a global gallery, and I think that the sort of the global aspect of it, it's been the last 3-4 years.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the point where we knew what we wanted to do with our work and where we wanted to place it. And talking with Simon, that was the direction they were going with the gallery, and it sort of just the trajectories were really aligned. So that's how it came about.
Well, you're in fine company in that gallery as well. There's a lot of really quite talented artists and designers are, exhibiting pieces with them. And every stand that they seem to put up at a fair or a show just is, it's the best work from all around the world, isn't it? So
yeah, it is. He goes around in Tuesdays from different countries, and yeah, I think in this particular case, because we knew each other, we kind of approached him with the work. But it's it's quite niche. The whole, they call it collectible design. Yesterday I've heard art
furniture.
Art furniture. So but this is a very small world. It's all normally attached to the art world. Like the fair is always a part of a bigger art fair, and it just to kind of move that particular type of people around. And the galleries are not that many.
It's like maybe a dozen or so, I think. Maybe not even that many in England, but there seems to be like maybe half a dozen to a dozen of galleries that operate in that kind of sphere.
Yeah.
That kind of, if you're exhibiting work with them, that your work's probably going to be well received, and it's pretty good,
We hope so.
It must feel good as well to walk into a show like PAD or in Miami and go, well, there's our stuff, there's that stuff as well, and it's all, in a show like this, it's
kind of strange. I think we lived with it for so long that I don't remember a time when you wouldn't kind of live in PAD either wanting to be part of it or be part of it. It's kind of just where normally this type of art lives. So it's kind of,
we're in that weird niche, whereas I want to be part of it, but with my own stuff, but we make a lot of it for other people. So we always go in, it's like, there's that and there's that, and we've made, we're not allowed to say.
Yes, there's a lot of not allowed to say.
We kind of walk around and nod a lot and say hello to people, and I kind of in the back of my mind I'm thinking, one day I'll just have my own stuff in there, but I think it's a tricky thing. I think it's a very difficult thing to go from making furniture to making art furniture and exhibiting with those kind of galleries, if you haven't, you're saying about when you're at RCA and you had a fantastic group of people and everyone's kind of, you're moving in that same sort of trajectory and stuff like that. I think without that, because I would imagine that they would give you the means to put shows on and exhibit and put exhibitions on that will really help launch a career. I mean, that's certainly part of the literature when you want to apply for a master's there. That's kind of how they sell it. But I think without that, I think the everyday person that's just making furniture it's definitely a kind of plateau where they're going to get to and go, maybe I'll make loads of tables and chairs and it's going to be really good. But there's like a invisible step somewhere between that and getting picked up by a big gallery that I think is it just seems like there's some kind of alchemy there that mere mortals aren't really privy to.
Yeah, I think like everything in life, you do little steps. So for me, I studied in Bulgaria and I just found RCA. I was like, okay, this is exactly what I want to do, and I'll pursue it as long as it takes to get there. Which it kind of you learn a lot of things and you challenge yourself and ask yourself constantly, is that really what I want to do? Because it would mean sacrificing other things. But I think once when I was in RCA, for me, the fact that everyone around me was doing something in this was the only thing that was keeping me not dropping it, because no one around would be like, oh yeah, why don't you just go and do very expensive furniture for people that you never met? So I think because of the people around me, I continue doing it. Some of them will succeed in something you're like, oh wow, I really want to succeed in this kind of field. So you keep pushing each other and you kind of propel each other.
Well, also, I think we just got into the mode of we did a lot of shows with friends, just for Design Week. We started to do more and more in Milan, which when you're starting out and you don't have any budget, it's actually, looking back, I don't even know how we managed it, but finding someone in Milan that wants to give you their space, they think that the project's worth showing, and then finding a way to get the work out and set it up and communicate it. Yeah, I mean, we've done so much of that, and with friends and over the years, I'm pretty happy that when we have an exhibition now, it means all the work has to be done really ahead of time, and that bit coming up to a fair is when we're completely hands off, and we just need to make ourselves available for communication, for press, stuff like that. But yeah, for a decade, it was not that.
Yeah,
it's kind of.
I think if you leave it to us, would be the last moment. It's just because the logistics of fairs is so insanely difficult that you learn.
But yeah, I think how just doing it over and over, and you learn quite a lot by getting a lot of things wrong and a few things right, hopefully, and then just each part of it is figuring out how to be critical about what you do in a really constructive way. Like, so what went right and what could we do better next time? And I think that kind of gives you the feeling that you want to keep doing it and keep improving and making sure you can do a great project, you can find a space, but it's you finally get everything together and show it, but you haven't had time to actually communicate it to anyone, and then of course no one's going to show up because you haven't told anyone. So it's just seems very obvious, but just kind of making sure that take care of all the elements involved to actually get some value out of showing, and make sure that you kind of have a sense of what you're trying to do or who you're trying to communicate to. And
yeah, that's great. Important.
Yeah. Now I think we've done it enough. It's kind of a given, but thinking back through that, there are a lot of elements to it. Having the right project is very important, but making sure you communicate it and and to the right people and in the right way. It's all those things are really essential.
And how important do you think is telling the story behind the work that you're presenting?
Depends who you're asking. For us, it's very important. For some of the clients and collectors,
I think
they really want to know. We've had some pieces with museums, and obviously the museums don't come because of an object. They come because of the whole context of what we're doing. And then we've had impulse purchases that are quite a big surprise in a way, that someone is in a position to come along and, wow, I like that, I'll have it, and they don't want to know any more other than how soon it can be delivered or something. So it's really a spectrum.
But I think it's generally people, even when they don't want to know, they're still buying this aesthetic. So in a way, the story is almost everything. I think as humans, we connect to a story, and you can hear sometimes when someone buys something of your work, and then you hear them talking to someone else about it. It's like, oh, that's what you got of that. Cool. It's kind of nice. I think it's very important, the story. And I don't know, Ian, but for me, with kind of the world growing and we have so many possessions, the story is what keeps you attached to one object rather than another. So I think that it's even more and more important than before.
I would agree, actually. If I think about my personal spending habits, I think I'd rather not buy many things and then buy that one or two things that make me feel good about buying them. Whether that's the story or who's made it or how it's been made or what it's been made from. I value that far, far more than being able to buy loads of crap cheap with nothing behind it, I guess.
We are kind of bombarded with cheap available products these days.
We were lucky to go to Japan in October, and I think that was really, I first really enjoyed, but also their way of owning something is so different than the Western way. I think it's very inspiring, and also the amount of care they take in each object and the material of it and everything about it is very, very,
very considered. People really think a lot about if in Japan products have so much thought in them, and people take care of what they buy in a way, and their expectations of what a product should be and do is very, things should last and be reliable and durable, and it was a really eye-opening trip in many ways. You see so many things that you kind of this is how it should be, but obviously different values and different expectations. We do have a lot of very cheap, tacky things available to us here, and I think it's really important to think about what you buy and what qualities you expect out of something, and to be realistic. But obviously in our work, we don't make many things, and the logic is already kind of, it's more of a cultural development. Obviously we're very much futurist in our work, so we don't exactly have the same logic necessarily of the objects we surround ourselves with and our own work. It's more of an art narrative in that way, I suppose.
For me, it's very important when someone sees our work to be really inspired, thinking about outside of everyday, like something like the way you think about nature, something that is very not concerning a mundane topics. It's kind of dreamy in a sense,
ethereal almost. I think certainly the work that I've seen that you guys have done, and the videos and imagery of the cabinet and previous works, I think it definitely resonates with that. You don't look at that anything that you've made think, oh, it's just a seat, or it's just a this, or it's just a that. There's no connotations with anything kind of boring or mass produced. It is all of your pieces are just fantastic individual pieces, whether they're monolithic or whether they're a thin big cabinet, whatever it is. There's just something completely different and unique that does make you question what the material is, what the actual product is. The cabinet, you wouldn't look at it and initially think it was a cabinet, so I think the way that you question, that one would question everything about everything that you make is really you probably unique to you guys as the makers, because let's say you walk into Pad, you wouldn't walk into Pad and look at a piece of furniture and first of all question what it is, second of all question what it's made out of, and then third of all question, like, how the hell has that been made? As I did with you when I saw you. I think that's the first question I asked, like, how have you made this? Because it's so different to anything else.
And yeah, that's the result of the fact that we don't know what we're doing as a final result. It's more like we see a potential, and then we give it the space to become what should be, what basically the ceramic kind of taught us, and then we just wait till we find the right combination. But yeah, it's not the simplest thing to do.
But it's something important to us, and why I think we think of ourselves as kind of futurists. We really want something that no one's experienced before. But I think that's kind of what we try to bring, and also it's why we really want to show our work. You don't have to own something to experience it. I think it's really interesting for to see interaction with the work and to see how people respond, and of course it's very niche. It's not for everyone. It's not supposed to be for everyone, but I think to be able to experience something that you haven't experienced before is kind of a nice thing. It's what I think a big part of what we want to do, and why we're constantly kind of trying to move forward.
How do you? The question that springs to my mind is, how do you design something that nobody's ever seen before? Because every design, to a certain extent, comes from something else. Maybe it's inspired by something else. How, if you put the metal stuff, put the aluminium foam stuff in away, and someone tasks you with your next project, how do you then start that next project thinking we're futurists and we've got to design something that is completely new? How do you start that process?
We're just working on a kind of a really unusual project for us. We're actually working on some laminated plywood furniture. We haven't touched wood in since university.
I pretty much have
a little bit after. It is kind of not. We really have our materials with metal, ceramic, glass, and we work with stone a little bit now, or with lava. But yeah, we've been working with some craftsmen in Japan on a wood project, which we're going to show in Milan in April, I think.
Wow!
And yes, so
it's exciting.
It's
from one end of the spectrum completely to the other. Then,
yeah, but I think all going as it should. I think what we've tried to do is really bring our qualities into plywood. So I don't think it'll look like anything that's come before, but we haven't challenged the process in a way that we've figured out how to do something with plywood that's never been done. But I think it has the qualities. So
also we allow, because it's done by a master in Japan, for them to do what they're good at. So we kind of let them use the veneer the way they normally using it, but we kind of created the frame for that. And for first time we actually going to have a chair, which I think it took 15 years to design a chair.
Yeah. So it's going to be.
Do you think people are going to recognize it instantly as yours?
No,
I
don't think so.
I
think we were very lucky because they were so much trying to fit with our narrative. They found wood that has this metallic feel to it, or how to say the pattern, and it's really silvery metallically blue. But that again is part of a process because they dye it with indigo, and then they have a specific way of removing it partially, so the wood looks very interesting. We had few designs, and in one point we were kind of, okay, maybe we'll do a bit more simple, and I'm like, no, it's not Studio Furthermore enough, we need to do this. So they went for a more complicated version of it.
It was really kind of a joy working with them, but they understand what we do very well, and they have a sense of what's a Studio Furthermore, quite a strong sense of what a Studio Furthermore product or piece is. And so when we were talking through ideas and we were showing different things, some a little bit safer ideas and some more, and yes, as you were saying, they were quite like, no, it has to be really Studio Furthermore. That's what that's what we're here for. So it'll be interesting.
Wow. And that's going to be launched where?
In Milan.
We're confirming
to be confirmed, but should be on time for April.
Fantastic. Yeah. That's super exciting. So
for us as well,
one thing that I always ask everyone that comes on is, if you could go back, give some advice to your 18-year-old selves, knowing what you've learned from then till now, what advice would you give?
I would say don't overthink it and just go for it, instead of kind of spend too much time of wondering and worrying if it would work out. I would say, in my opinion, it always works out as far as you put enough effort in it. Whatever the outcome would be, it's energy that goes somewhere. And I would, don't concern yourself so much with being worried about it. Just go for it.
Yeah. I think definitely take time to learn how to do things, but try to be quick with producing work. I think working quickly, it's better to do more and make mistakes in a way than to try and be really cautious and
that's a good point.
So better just to go quickly,
make mistakes,
do as much as you can, as fast as you can, and then look back on it and go through it, rather than I think it's easy to kind of procrastinate or sit there thinking about it a lot. Just go and do, and by doing you develop, I think, and you figure things out. So just be as active as you can and do as much as you can. I would say.
Fantastic. So hopefully Milan, hopefully in April. Where else are you going to be exhibiting this year?
Charles Bernard has a quite ambitious plan, so I think they'll go all over the world. Well, they'll bring us, we'll see.
With new pieces or with the pieces? Okay.
Yes.
So you're going to be busy then for a little while.
Yes. Yeah, I think they're opening a new gallery in Mayfair.
Wow.
Just opposite Pad. So I think that they're very excited about it. And they'll bring a kind of a rotation of exhibitions. We're very happy to finish also the Japanese project and show it. There is other things, other materials, and we're always looking for things that are interesting. And I think it's getting to a point that people recognize that companies, and they come and say, okay, I have this material and I don't know what to do with it. It's a result of, for example, recycling or something. And it's like, we look at it, okay, we can do something with this in that direction. And I find that very exciting new direction for Studio Furthermore, ways we don't necessarily need to know and do the material. Now kind of the material comes to us a bit, which is
we've started working with lava stone, with actual lava stone rather than something.
There was a very funny, the way it happened. We obviously publishing our stuff on Instagram, and they came from the companies like, we were so sure that you're doing it from lava, the pieces that you're showing, that we couldn't understand how you do it. But later on, we read the caption and realized it's not. But visually, it resembles so much that they were
really,
worried that we have some magic skills.
They're really a leader in the lava stone field. They can kind of do many processes very, very well, and they're a family business, so they do traditional hand carving through to CNC machining and stuff, and they couldn't work out how we did our pieces, and they were very wanting to find out. And part of the thing with lava stone is that it's a natural renewable material if it's collected from a volcano that's active, which is what they do in Italy. And that just sparked a nice conversation back and forth between them and us, because their material is renewable and our process is actually recycled aluminium.
And the visually looks similar. So it was kind of...
So we started to collaborate on a few different projects. We launched our first one with them last year in Milan, and we're developing some more pieces, some more work.
Wow.
So that should be happening over this year as well.
Fantastic.
But it's kind of a funny route from making this metal lava material to actually working with lava now, which so it's kind of gone full circle, which is nice.
Fantastic. I mean, it sounds really exciting. It sounds like, the hard work has paid off, and that you're in a place where you're just doing fantastic projects. So well done. It's really inspiring to see, and I think many people who'd be listening to this, furniture makers or designers, are probably going to be incredibly inspired by your stories and your passion, and still the creativity and the wanting to learn and try new stuff. Even though you've developed a fantastic name for yourselves, it'd be very easy to rest on laurels at this point and make the same stuff. But
we enjoy the work.
I think this is partially why once we had to choose which direction to go, gallery or not, we realized we just unable to keep repeating the same thing. The time we tried to do this particular bow that had this shape, every time it was like, but what if we do this? And then it just sparkles into something else. So I think we matched our personalities with what we're doing, and try each step to take care of that, so not to go against our nature. But if you ask me if I would tell my kids to do that, I would say no way. It's quite tough.
Yeah, but curiosity also comes with failure, I guess. It's at some stage, as you can be curious and you can be experimental, but like you were saying, there's always going to be failure. But it's how you take those failures and how you develop from them and how you use them, for the positive.
We also have shelves and boxes of things that have kind of gone wrong. Loads and loads of experiments and tests. And
basically what that studio is about.
And those are the things that you can go back through, and that's actually a big source of inspiration, I think.
Really?
Well. It's really the things that don't turn out the way you planned, that then you look, could be months or years later, and you see it in a completely different way. It's like, no, but there's something really interesting about that. Or so
in a different context or a different product. Or,
I think also the kind of the world is changing. So I think 15 years ago it was totally, certain things would just not be interesting, or people would be like, I don't care so much about sustainability or something of that. And it moves, and where before it was really critical that you can repeat something the same over and over again, now even bigger brands start being like, okay, it could be a bit, it's made by a human, so it could be a bit different, and that's where the value is. So that changes. But for me, it's more driving, not so much the things in the studio, more the reaction of people. And I think kind of exciting them and making them want to see what's next. It's also part of my kind of driving force.
Fantastic.
To see what's next.
Well, I can't wait to say. I probably won't make it to Milan, but I'll definitely go up to the gallery when it's open. And
everything is on the screen anyway.
Yeah, but it's not the same.
That was a problem during COVID. It's like people are like, I can do so many things. Actually, I really miss the physical kind of experience. Even when you see a piece, it's so much different to walk into a gallery and feel the energy of this person that created this work. The scale, everything on the phone is just that big. I mean, it's not the same. It smells different when you go into the gallery. Everything is different.
Depends what gallery you go into.
Well, yeah.
Some smell better than others.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, it is an experience, and it's an experience that I recommend to everybody. You want to see something for real. You want to, if you can, you want to feel it. You want to touch it. You want to experience it from every angle and see it in a context rather than just.
I think that's another. I mean, I don't know if advice, but another thing I would say that there's so much happening in and around in terms of shows, exhibitions, and just getting out, and things that I think people don't maybe always consider. But in London, for example, some of the big auction houses, you might not think to set foot inside. When they have a big sale on contemporary art or design, anyone can go in and you can go and view some incredible things. And it's free and it's very, very accessible. But maybe if you haven't been before, it seems a bit kind of maybe a daunting place or something. But there are all these places you can go and experience work, and just getting out and seeing things. Meeting people as well. There are so many openings and exhibitions. I think just trying to get out into the world and enjoy it. That's really.
Is that what you're saying to your?
Yeah, I'm saying it to myself. We just kind of lock ourselves away in the studio.
I can be equally as guilty as that. I lock myself in a workshop and come in when it's dark and leave when it's dark. Get out and do more. Well, on that note, I think we'll end it. But that was fantastic. I really value that you've come in and you've given an insight into your process and how you got there and stuff. And I think, thank you very much for coming in.
For having it. It's been
fantastic.
It's been a joy.
And I can't wait to come and see new, more exciting work.
Yeah, and come and visit.
Well, you're only along the road in home, aren't you? So yeah, I might take you up on that one.
Yeah. I mean, that's where the unfinished and the ideas are, and the kind of bits and pieces, and where you need to use your imagination, and the galleries where it's done and
the final piece. Yeah. You see behind the curtain in the studio. Well, I will take you up on that one day. Thank you very much. Cheers.